I'll hold the handle.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, please. If we could ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll ask Mr. Thompson to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Shall we pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Shall we call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. Singer-Erdley.
Here.
Mr. Lesby.
Here.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell.
Here.
Mrs. Tingle Sain.
Here.
Mr. Showalter.
Here.
Mr. Stone.
Yep.
Mrs. Taggett.
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We have a full house. Each of you should have received a copy of the minutes of our last meeting. If you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Thank you. If there are no corrections, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Also in your packet, you should have received the latest check register. If you could indicate you received that. Thank you.
I didn't see.
Now, public comments. First on the list is Mr. Larry Ledbetter. Please come forward, Mr.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Want to just briefly tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from West Virginia and met my wife about 11 years ago, and she was here in Georgetown. And I somehow got a hook in her and drug her back to West Virginia with me. And when we got married, I made a promise to her that when my older kids graduated from high school, I'd take her anywhere she wanted to go to live, hoping that it would be Florida or
The best state in the state.
I understand. Her dad is ailing and lives in Louisville, and we've got her mom in a nursing home with us, and she's wanting to get back closer to her dad. So we're wanting to move back to this area. And one of the things I've dreamed about for the last little bit is owning a cigar and bourbon bar. And so I'm wanting to open one of those up here in town. We've got what I believe is the perfect location down in the corner where the old, I believe it was the Lock and Key Cafe was. I think that's perfectly situated. I've met with the owners, given them our business plan and talked to them about it. I've spoke with Devin and with Karen and got to talk to Todd a little bit tonight before the meeting, a little bit with Marvin. And just to share my vision for what it can be. And in the 30,000 foot overview looking down on it, we're looking to put in a high class establishment where people can come, enjoy a nice hand-rolled premium cigar, and add to that experience with a glass of wine, glass of bourbon, maybe have some live music on the weekends, a place where they can relax and just enjoy a cigar. The current city ordinance allows for the cigar bar. The hitch in the giddy up, if you will, or the speed bump is that it states in there that all other sales are incidental. And I think we can all agree that if I have bourbon and wine in there, it's probably not going to be incidental. So what I would implore or ask you guys to help with is to maybe take a look at what you've got the definition in there written about what a retail tobacco shop would be, and see if we can allow that to take place and add the bourbon to that. If you've got questions, you can interrupt me. I can get back on track. I think that in looking at downtown, this would be something that would fit in well. I think it would be something that would be well received. I think that it's a unique opportunity, and I think it would do well. And the people that I've spoken with here in town also believe that it would do well. So I would ask that you guys take a look at the code, the ordinance, and see what you could do to allow this to take place. Any questions?
I have a question for Devin. Since he's talked to you about that, it's the definition, it's the change of a definition of what incidental, is that what we'd have to do to the ordinance to allow that?
It would take significantly more than that.
But,
Devin and I have explored the ordinance in detail. This will be a dramatic change from the ordinance that we have, and it cannot be addressed by simply a word change or changing a definition of incidental.
okay.
We're going to have to address this in a real direct sense to what it is. I'm sorry, Mr. Ledbetter.
You're fine.
This is a public comment part of the meeting, and normally we delve into these issues further into the agenda. I wasn't sure what your topic was. But Devin and I have discussed this. We'd be glad to discuss it with you further. It's not ready to bring to the city.
Sure, I
council
understand
other
that.
than for their awareness. We'd be glad to talk to you more about it.
Okay, and I'd be more than happy to come back at a later date and give a full detailed plan and talk and answer any questions that you might have.
I think before you develop a full detailed plan, we need to figure out how it fits the ordinance.
Sure. Well, I just meant my business plan. I've got a business plan written out that, because that's what I've got to take to like a bank to get financing and things like that, so. Okay.
And to piggyback on what Mayor said, Karen, I know some other jurisdictions, you've done your research clearly, a lot of jurisdictions do try to take that route of redefining incidental, and I'm very leery of that. I think incidental is a pretty clear term. Incidental means you made that purchase, it wasn't calculated, it was unintentional. Well, if I'm going to a cigar and bourbon bar, I think it's pretty calculated that I'm gonna have a bourbon. So Mayor 100% agrees that if we want to take this route, and this is a policy the council wants to endorse, I think we need to define retail tobacco store, not incidental. We need to just take the route, this is how much tobacco sales qualify you, as opposed to redefining one simple term, just face it head on.
Not at all opposed to the concept. Locations are very successful in
Sure.
places,
Right.
but our ordinance
No, I
simply
totally understand.
includes it at this point until we figure out a different approach.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Not to convolute the issue, but we have talked about the e-cigarettes, the vapor things. Would that be a part of maybe redoing this ordinance to specify that whatever, the intake of those cannot be, in parallel buildings?
I think it's appropriate. It'd be responding to the way the industry's grown.
If we're going to work on that ordinance, if it's going to end up getting either rewritten or amended or whatever the case may be, I guess that'd be a good time to incorporate the vapor.
And just to add to that, years ago, before the e-cigarettes and vapes came out, the cigar industry worked very hard to separate themselves from the cigarette industry. And the FDA put cigars into the other category. And then when the vapes and the e-cigs came out, they didn't know what to do with those, so they stuck them in the other category. And so now the cigar industry is trying to remove itself from the other category to separate themselves from the e-cigs and the vapes. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Rose Lewis and Dottie Back. Please come up.
We're here tonight to ask you your approval for a program called Turn the Towns Teal. My name is Rose Lewis. I'm a Scott County resident, and Dottie lives in Georgetown, and I am an ovarian cancer survivor, and Dottie's mom has ovarian cancer, and we're part of the Bluegrass Ovarian Cancer Support Group, and they have been doing this program for 7 years now in Lexington. It's basically an information campaign to help people learn about ovarian cancer and about the symptoms, and to make you aware that, some facts about ovarian cancer. It is the deadliest gynecologic cancer. There are fewer cases of it than breast cancer, so it doesn't get as much publicity, but the survival rate is lower than breast cancer, and there's no screening test for it, which some people think Pap smear, I'll just educate you a little bit, Pap smear will detect this. No, it does not. There is no screening test like a Pap smear or a mammogram for ovarian cancer. It has very nonspecific symptoms, so that's why education is important. September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and what we would like to do, what they've done in Lexington and also in Versailles and Harrodsburg, is to put up some teal-colored ribbons on the light poles in downtown. We would do this. They'd go up at the beginning of September, and we take them back down at the end of September, put them up with plastic cable ties so they don't scratch the paint. So they've been doing that for about 7 years in Lexington, have gotten some good responses, and this is what we would propose, but we need your approval for that, to be able to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something our Public Works would actually install, or which I'd be fine with? Or
We'd
would
be
they?
happy to install them. We
do
have,
them in downtown Lexington too. So,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
We
You
have
have-
a group, we have a group that goes to our sales, and then we do Lexington, and we do Marquee, and Turn the Towns Teal is a national program too, so
Yeah.
it happens all over the country.
all over the
I think it's a
country.
great idea.
I do
personally.
too.
Make a motion for
I'll
approval,
make a
Mayor.
motion.
I'll make a second. There you go. I thought the lady would do that.
Motion's been made and seconded to turn the town teal.
Yeah.
Well, they turned it orange here a few weeks ago, remember, when they had the orange T-shirts, so.
That's right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you, and I'll get the form to your secretary, so we have to have the mayor's signature on it. Or-
And if during the installation process, if you need help or you run into any barriers, let us know.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the public comment sheet is Stephen Price.
Thank you, Mayor Prather, Town Council, for convening and letting people speak their mind. I'll read you, if you don't mind, a letter to the editor, which I hope the News Graphic will publish soon. Please publish, dear editor, please publish the following letter to you under the headline, Bare Hands, Home Recycling, Not Governance, Needed to Eliminate Landfill. The letter goes on, every time I put a piece of paper into a trash can, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, said Lexington Mayor Linda Gorton to a newspaper reporter who quoted her in the Lexington Herald Leader 6/22/19. Credit and praise are due to Mayor Gorton for her honesty and courage in admitting and facing the inevitable problem that haunts our supposedly happy-go-lucky, consumption-oriented, throwaway community, which now subsists almost entirely from a monetized, corporation-controlled commerce rather than, as formerly, from personal crop work, skills, crafts, homestead production, and barter. That haunting problem is discarded waste material. Kentucky law, KRS 224-43-010, says, it is the policy of the Commonwealth to limit and reduce the amount of solid waste disposed. Home recycling is the best way I know of turning trash into treasure, so that waste materials are not thoughtlessly disposed, but are rather kept on hand and at hand for immediate use or until some use is discovered for them. Home recycling avoids expensive, dangerous motor shipments and puts landfills out of business. I'll make you a copy of this and get it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. That completes public comments. Just a couple of mayor comments. First off, I'm sure each of you has heard the news or seen the newspaper that we have a very significant retirement coming up. With Fire Chief John Ward. End of July. Actually, I think he's got a little vacation time coming, so it could be the last.
Could be tonight, could it?
Could be, well, it won't be tonight. He'll at least get deep into June before he does that. But if you had not seen that, delighted with Chief Ward's service to the city, and wanted to let the council know that we've begun that search process, and look forward to continuing the progress of the fire department with the best chief that we can find. Also, I had reported to you all that East Main Street Extended was under construction. They were on a pretty tight timeline. And that we were trying to follow up with the Secretary of Transportation, since he had indicated he would send an emergency funding request across the river. Mr. Eddie Hightower has now completed said application himself and has delivered it through the right channels. So now all we need to do is have the right people that have indicated they would bless it. So Mr. Hightower took that initiative and got that going for us. That has been submitted. We have gotten the KIA loan commitment. The board voted unanimously when we appeared before the KIA board on our loan for the South Sewer Line expansion and the trailer park solution. We've now gotten that commitment letter. Just wanted to let you know that, as we've reported before, that will that does not actually become a loan to the city until we make the first draw. So we've got a lot of work to do before we're ready to make that draw, and that's the trigger that actually creates the loan. Reminder, this weekend, Party on the Park. If the rain will allow us to have a party on the park, we're going to have music down there for certain. Also, I had mentioned to a couple of council members, in fact, Holly, you were at the Eco-Fiber groundbreaking. Just a new addition to our Lanes Run Business Park that very impressive company and situation. The building that they're going to build out in our Lanes Run Park is going to be LEEDs Platinum. There are very few LEEDs Platinum buildings in America. In Georgetown, we have one, and that is the Toyota Motor Manufacturing Engineering Headquarters is LEEDs Platinum. This would be the second such building in Georgetown. It'd be a nice addition to the community. This is the company, actually Australian investors working on the black hemp derivative of hemp processing. They cited uses such as furniture maker Herman Miller actually using the black hemp in the metal frames of the high-end business furniture, because the black hemp has conductivity where now they have to sew copper threads into the fabric or the seat to conduct static electricity away. The black hemp in the metal will actually serve that purpose. Copper is an extractive process, and hemp is a renewable asset. Just in carpeting, one of their biggest customers that will be using this facility is Shaw Carpeting. Scientists from all over the world will be visiting the site to help develop these products. We don't know what the growth potential is. But it's an very interesting company, and it'll be fun to watch it grow. You were there. Eric Wang is, I told the Finance Committee earlier, he may be the closest thing to a genius that I've talked to.
He's a whole other level. He really is. He's just brilliant, and just the foresight, and you can tell his mind just goes in 100 different directions, at one time. But I was very impressed.
Yeah, and why this should mean so much to us is this is possible because of the foresight and work that Ryan Quarles has done to get Kentucky in this position.
Yep.
A lot of visionary people have been at work so these opportunities can happen today. Also, you've seen the article in the paper, but I just want to mention to it because I'm so proud of our police department. Our officer that got injured in out of state, Cole Sentner, our Georgetown Police Department got his wife home, got Cole home. Everybody's back home where they should be, so she can have her baby here at home and he can be here for that event. So, Captain, proud of our department for doing that. Also, just wanted to let you all know about something that Devin's been helping me with. We want to continue to have community conversations about juvenile violence and the issues that creates, not only in the school system, but throughout our community. We've talked to you all about the meeting we had earlier in the year that was more law enforcement oriented, but we wanted to start talking about more community oriented efforts. So this past week, Devin had Laura Hatfield, who is the director of One Lexington, a program of the city of Lexington, come visit with Nathaniel Price, our SROs, Chief Swanigan, others. Pardon?
Judge.
Yeah, that's right, Judge Covington. Just to talk about steps they're doing. This young lady is a bundle of energy, and that was evident, but I liked her style when she said, we call my department One Lexington because I'm one employee with no budget.
That's pretty neat.
But effort. And she's emailed Devin a whole bunch of information. There's some things that we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to see what others are doing successfully, and we're evaluating those, and we'll bring you more information. But one of the things that Devin's been working on.
Good.
Let's see, that concludes Mayor's comments. Item 7 on your agenda. Sherry, is that you back there? Parks and Recreation.
Mayor, Council, how's everyone? Good. I'm bringing to you 3 items that were on our capital budget for this year, so getting it in here right under the wire. The first one is a John Deere tractor, and we are getting that at state pricing for $36,268.60. This is replacing a tractor that we purchased back in the early 90s, so we've made a lot of use out of that one, but it's time for it to go.
Motion, Mayor.
Can we just do
I'm
all
sorry.
of them at once?
Don't you? Yeah.
I'll make a motion to do all 3 of them.
Why don't you just run through all of them, and if we have questions,
I'll second
council
that
has.
motion too, and we'll.
Okay, and the second one we have is to replace a vehicle. The vehicle that is being replaced is a 1994, and we are replacing it with a We're looking to replace it with a Ford. The price on that is $29,677. And the third one is also a maintenance vehicle that will be used for facility maintenance. It is priced at $22,096, and those are all state contract pricing.
And these are all in your capital budget?
They are all in our capital budget. And as a matter of fact, on the one truck, we're almost 9,000 under budget on it, so we feel like we did good on it.
So we've got a motion and a second to approve all three purchases. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Anything else tonight, Sherry?
I think that's it right now.
Okay.
So thank you all.
Thank you. Let's see, item 8 on the agenda for a whole slew of stuff. Chase?
Thank you, Mayor.
It's at least A through D or E look pretty routine. If you can buzz through those,
Sure.
then I'll take it back over from you.
We've 5 purchase orders for council consideration tonight. First is to Bluegrass Engineering. This is on our Phase 1 of our Operations Center for distribution. That is for additional engineering that we needed during construction. Total for that is $111,164.28. I'll just point out, we are not funding any one penny of that. All of that is liquidated damages that are assessed to our contractor. They've already negotiated and agreed to pay that, so that's just coming out of their final closeout payment for the project.
That's easy. I'll make a motion for approval, Mayor.
All right, that was done. And seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Items B, C, and E are 3 purchase orders to GRW Engineering. Those are for their first 3 invoices on the design of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion. That's for work on the regional facilities plan that we have to do for the permitting of that plant. Our board, instead of establishing one blanket PO for the total contract price, they asked me on this project with its the size and the magnitude of the cost on this design that I just bring purchase orders for each individual invoice. So these are the first 3 that we've gotten that we're just now getting around to getting purchase orders for. The first one is for $14,900. Second one is $16,883, and the third invoice is $37,250.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for all 3 of them.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Todd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Final purchase order is for Palmer Engineering. This was for additional design on our Bluegrass RV gravity sewer project. The project took longer than expected, and unlike the Bluegrass Engineering when this was not all on the contractor, this was weather delays. This was just additional engineering we needed for $24,211.42. Just point out that this project, even with this change order, still came in under budget, and this is the project where we partnered with Bluegrass RV. They're paying a third of the project cost. We're paying 2/3, so they'll pay a third of this $24,211.
Thank you.
Motion, Mayor. I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Carries.
Yep.
Item F on the agenda, the rate study. Probably the most important thing on our agenda tonight. And just a couple of comments before Chase walks us through the process that's been utilized and what the outcomes of that process are. I'm actually pleased that we're at this point. Nobody likes rate increases, but I am actually pleased that we're at the point of having this situation fully examined, evaluated, looked at, and completely analyzed to the point where the water board has gotten comfortable bringing this recommendation forward. We've been talking about this particular meeting for a long time now. We've been talking about the fact that we haven't had a rate increase in 12 years. We've been talking about the awareness of capital projects that have to be undertaken, and the fact that rate increases were coming. So certain, I even talked about it during my State of the City address back in March. So we've certainly plowed this ground. What we expected of the Water Board and Chase's team is that we fully understand what our needs are, differentiated from what our wants are. But what we must do to operate our system as a responsible utility. We've through no one's fault, we have some deferred maintenance. We've had the luxury of a long period of time without rate increases. Now, the water company has brought us the business case of what must be done and what they believe is the best way to pay for these necessary improvements. I had explained to the Finance Committee earlier, who has had a chance to review this presentation ahead of you, that we would have brought this for your consideration prior to now. But the Water Board simply was not finished doing their work. And they did their work. They asked for scenario after scenario of different ways that we could look at what was required, how we determined what was required, and ways to pay for those. I think they exhausted our consultants, they exhausted the staff, but the Water Board did their job. They finally brought us the business case that I believe justifies the rate increases that are before us. So, Chase, I'm going to ask you to walk through this. The other thing for the council's benefit, we are scheduled for first reading tonight. We would like to go ahead and have first reading tonight, which will give you 2 weeks to consider things additionally before we ask for a roll call vote. We can't approve the water company's budget until we approve their rate structure. It'd simply be irresponsible to do so. So even at this, if we maintain our schedule of second reading at our next meeting, the water company's budget will not be approved until July the 8th. We can live with that. Chase would prefer not for it to be that way. But his board's insistence on doing their due diligence just took some time.
Yes, sir.
So, Chase, I'm gonna, with that explanation, I'm going to ask you to walk through your presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time for council questions and comments from there.
Thank you, Mayor. Just stop me if you have questions or comments. Don't hold them till the end, please. As the Mayor said, our last 3 new business items are the rate study and the new rate ordinance that results from that rate study, and the fiscal year 2020 budget. Also going to be discussing the critical needs analysis tonight, which is our 5-year capital and operational plan that we developed in conjunction with the rate study as the basis of the rate study. What I want to do, as the Mayor said, is walk council tonight through the process that we started back in November and how we've gotten to where we are today. I want you all to understand that process and want you to have comfort with that. So just as we're going to walk through tonight, we'll talk about first the critical needs analysis. That's our 5-year operational and capital plan. We're going to talk about how that factored in the results of the critical needs analysis as the basis of our rate study and the scenarios that we ran and the scenario that the board is going to is recommended to council. Also going to run through our proposed FY20 budget, which is based on rate scenario 3 and the adjustments called for in rate scenario 3. Starting out with critical needs analysis. Mayor talked about it in the State of the City. I've been talking about it. We've started design on wastewater treatment plant number 1, upgrade and expansion. The cost of that project alone, estimated currently right now in our planning stage, is at $42.5 million for that upgrade and expansion. Our current rates do not support the cost of that upgrade and expansion. We know that a rate increase is going to be required. What we didn't want to do was bring a rate increase to council for that project when we know we have a number of other items in our system, both water and sanitary sewer, that are critical in nature, that have been, as the mayor talked about, delayed maintenance. We didn't want to not factor those into a rate increase and then have to turn around and come back and ask again. So we decided that in order to justify this rate study, we needed to have a plan. And in order to get that plan done in time to factor into our FY20 budget, we said, let's look at a 5-year planning period. Starting back in November, that's what we thought we could realistically do and do a good job of it. Look at 5 years into the future, both water and sewer infrastructure, and plan our long-term plan on those 5 years. We felt like we could get that done and have that ready to be factored into our budget. That's why we chose that planning period. We started this effort internally, as I said, back in November. Started meeting with department heads all the way down to operators. Everyone in our organization had a hand in this. We said, what do we need to continue operating, maintaining service to our customers, and keeping us in regulatory compliance over the next 5 years? We've not done that. We've never looked at that. We look at our budget annually and our planning annually. So staff essentially started, based on that 2 very general criteria of regulatory compliance and maintaining good service, staff told me what operational programs, what equipment, what personnel, what studies, and most of all, what capital projects we're going to need in the next 5 years. They responded in a big way. I thought that I was going to get a Christmas wish list. I didn't. I thought I was going to have to do a lot of work to just weed through all that information, but what I got was a needs list, not a wants list. At that point, in February, we got that done. We felt like, as I said, this is going to result in our asking for the first rate increase in 12 years. We felt like we needed to, instead of just internally looking at this, we needed to bring in experts. So we selected GRW Engineering and their sub-consultant ERC, it's environmental rate consultants, industry experts to come in and help us with this effort, verify our findings, and make sure that we're doing this in a defendable and responsible way. So in February, GRW and ERC came on board to help us with this effort. We have representatives from GRW here tonight, as well as Alan Maple is our finance director and our operations manager. All these people helped with this effort. The starting point, we gave them that list that staff had developed. They took that list and they went through it. They met with staff. They added to it. They altered projects. They added some. Some they said, really, you're good. You don't need to do this. So they started going through that. In addition, they did a full system assessment, both drinking water infrastructure and sanitary sewer. They went out. They inspected all 3 of our wastewater plants, our wastewater plants, our water plant, all of our pump stations, elevated storage tanks. They did all that very quickly, and then they helped us develop this critical needs list of information, of projects, of efforts that we need to undergo to, as I said, maintain regulatory compliance, keep us in good standing with Division of Water and the US EPA, and maintain good service to our customers that they've come to expect. So GRW, they came along and they helped us develop this list, finalize this list of projects, and again, they helped us develop scoring criteria so we could rank all these projects. The 2 main criteria we had additional criteria, but those were the 2 main things we looked at, and we felt that those were things that maintain those 2 scoring ranking criteria, and scoring of those projects was justified and defendable. So they helped us develop this 5-year plan for capital projects and operational efforts. We did that by department. This is one example. This is drinking water treatment projects and efforts in drinking water distribution. So this is just one of the one department's list of projects. It's 21 projects or efforts, and with each one we have, as I'm going to point out up here, we have a project, we have a score based on the scoring criteria, and then they help develop a cost for that, a planning level cost, so we could factor that in to our rate study. So each project on here, we have 21 for drinking water, total $10.9 million worth of work that we feel needs to be done in the next 5 years. A lot of these probably needed to be done for many years, but just got delayed. But we feel like there's a lot of our infrastructure is at that critical mass point where we don't want to keep pushing these projects to the future. So just this first one, and going through it, the electrical system and some of our processes at the water treatment plant. This is one project. It was ranked at the top of the list for drinking water, cost of just over $1 million. So what did we get out of that? We didn't just get a spreadsheet with a number on it. We got a project profile is what I'm calling it. It's a narrative of all of the work here in the description that needs to be done. In general, this project is upgrading our electrical system at the water treatment plant. Our electrical system, as you can see in some of these pictures, antiquated, old, outdated. It doesn't meet today's code, and it's accident waiting to happen. With the project, as far as giving us a narrative of what needed to be done, they also developed a cost estimate for every one of these projects. So we have engineering construction costs. We also have admin costs, whether it's easements, whether it's legal fees. They gave us that planning level cost estimate to help factor into our future plan. Final thing, that for every project that we have a consequence of no action here. So for every project, they said, if we don't do this, here's what can potentially happen. So for this project, two main things. When you have old electrical wiring in water and wastewater infrastructure, you're very susceptible to arc flash. Your employees can get electrocuted. That was one of our consequences of no action. Other, we're susceptible to a fire at our water plant. Because of this old wiring, it needs to be updated, safer manner. So if we have a fire at the water treatment plant, that's going to result in loss of service to our water customers till we can get the pipes open from Frankfurt Plant Board and Kentucky American. Again, we got this work for every project that we identified. All of that is in that binder right there. It's over 250 pages. It was linked to your council packet. It's great reading. I find it very interesting. If you need something to help you sleep at night, knock yourself out. But I think you'll see if you do go through there that you're not going to see any fluff. You're not going to see anything that's not necessary in the next 5 years. This is a tally of that, kind of the final slide, a summary of our critical needs analysis. You'll see that water projects, we identified 21 projects at $10.9 million. Wastewater, which includes collections and treatment, we identified 17 projects totaling $20.3 million we feel are needed in the next 5 years. This number right here, I will point out, that does not include upgrade and expansion of wastewater 1. That is the additional $42.5 million that we have presented on. It's not included on this list. We've got our projects at wastewater treatment plant 2, 33 projects totaling $4.9 million. Point out those 33 projects are not included in our rate study because Toyota Motor Manufacturing funds those projects at that plant. They have received those 33 projects. They're already aware of most of them because of the planning that we have to do to help them with their budget process. We still have a project profile for each. We still know that we need to do it, but that cost does not get factored into our rate study or our budget. We have 8 what I'll call admin projects. Those are upgrades to our servers, our IT projects, upgrades to our SCADA system. We need a new roof on our admin building. Those projects total $1.8 million, just under. 3 expense projects. Those are engineering studies. They're expense. We're not building anything, but those are 3 projects that we think that we're going to need in the next 5 years, one of which includes a water source study. We know that our drinking water source, being the spring, is very susceptible. We do want to start before it's too late, before we have that catastrophic event that affects that spring. We want to know what our options are for an alternate drinking source. We have one project that we're looking to team with a developer on, similar to what we did with Bluegrass RV. We think there's benefit for both the developer and us, so we've got that project in the critical needs as well. So I have 83 projects shown here. We actually have project profiles developed on 103 projects. Our lowest scoring on criticality, those lowest scoring 20 projects, we said we're going to push those out past 5 years. We're not going to include those in the rate study. We feel like those are not going to cause a critical event if we don't do those. So we have those projects developed. We know they're out there, but we're going to push those past 5 years. So that gets you down to from 103 to 83 projects. Then take out the 33 projects funded by Toyota, and then add in the 1 project for the wastewater treatment plant. We're at 51 projects that we need to complete over the next 5 years. That is, in a nutshell, our critical needs analysis, our 5-year plan. Any questions so far?
Just a point of clarification. The thoroughness of the evaluation, that every one of these identified projects has a project sheet with both a justification and estimated cost and what happens if we don't do it now. And the fact that we have that level of detail on every project that's being presented. And this is the information that I think the Water Board was working through as it considered different financial scenarios. They were willing to push off things off to 5 years where we think it is prudent to do so, or we're not being irresponsible to do so.
Correct.
But we also have to make sure as we go through this list tonight that, with the exception of wastewater plant 1, none of the projects that have been identified are expanding our system. They are all bringing our current system up to date.
Correct.
And that's a key distinction. And I want the council needs to be aware that, but for the wastewater plant, all this other investment is just getting our current system up to where it should be operating.
Correct.
Not expanding it. Okay.
Moving right into the rate study. When we got this information done, when we completed the capital plan, the operational plan, that is when environmental rate consultants got on board and helped us with developing our financial model. That was one of their deliverables in their contract, a usable living financial model that they developed and turned over to us for our use going forward. That was their first task. Then they took all of these 51 projects and they helped us develop a financial schedule over 5 years, a cash flow analysis for funding these projects over 5 years. And essentially, they helped us run, I've lost count of how many scenarios at this point, but they helped us recommend 3 final scenarios to our administrative board and helped us make recommendations on those scenarios. So as I've learned going through this process, when you make these the rate structure, or the financial model, as well as the rate scenarios, you run those, you make some assumptions that go into those. That's where we really relied on environmental rate consultants. They do this every day for utilities, water and sanitary sewer, storm sewer. They know how to make these assumptions to put into your rate model. Water consumption growth rate conservatively at 2%, sewer consumption growth rate 4%, customer growth rate 1%, and inflation rate of 2%. One thing that was constant over all the rate scenarios that we went through is that we funded all of those 51 projects in every scenario. We funded the wastewater treatment plant number 1, and we also funded our portion, the Georgetown Municipal Water and Sewer Service portion of the South Sewer Extension. And I want to make a distinction here because that is on this slide that we are funding that project. That is the part of the project, the pump station and the interceptor sewer, that we need to build on the south side of the sewer regardless of whether a line is extended to the mobile home park in the south part of the county. This is a project that we need to do because we have availability requests that we don't have a solution for right now. We have multiple developers that want sewer capacity. We can't offer it right now. So that part of the project, that is in all of our rate scenarios, but it is not the part that extends the line all the way south, just to make that distinction.
Hey, Chase, when you talk about that, how do privilege fees play into that, what you just talked about? Because I know a lot of the infrastructure that we have wasn't paid for or installed by the taxpayers of Georgetown. It was paid for and installed by other entities, such
Correct.
as whether it be county government or developers or whomever the case may be, businesses, whatever the case.
So there will be a privilege fee established for all of the infrastructure that's part of the South Sewer Extension that we are responsible for. That's the interceptor sewer and the new regional pump station. We will actually be the owner of that privilege fee, so we're putting up the money for that initial
front end.
investment, and then anybody that ties to it, including the mobile home park owners, will pay a privilege fee for using that part of the infrastructure. The mobile home park will have to pay for the extension down to their location, and then they have to pay a privilege fee for their portion of the capacity in those systems, as will the other developers that have already requested service with that project.
And that privilege fee is time sensitive. So if somebody develops in the next couple of years, they'll pay X number of dollars. If it's 10 or 20 years down the road, there's interest that accrues on top of that, so that everything's recouped based on.
And the likelihood that we will recover every dollar, probably minimal, but we will recover a good bit of the cost based on the privilege fees.
And given the demand that seems to be there already, we don't think this is going to be a long-term.
I think we'll start
privilege fee.
recovering immediately, recovering money.
Chase,
Yes, sir.
clarification on one of the items you just talked about.
Sure.
At the present time, we have areas within the Georgetown city limits that don't have access to Georgetown sewer.
Correct.
And they've requested, Mark, and that they are commercial lots inside the bypass, that we cannot honor their request until this improvement's undertaken.
As well as upgrading the wastewater treatment plant number 1. Good on privilege fees? Okay. So we're bringing for council consideration a new rate ordinance that's based on our rate scenario number 3. We took, just giving you some information on the process that the board went through, we took initially 2 rate scenarios, scenarios 1 and 2 to the board. Background on those, scenario 1, well, I will say, it was our most fiscally conservative rate scenario. It allowed us to operate as we have in the past, where we didn't finance projects. We saved up for those projects and then paid for them out of cash from our revenue. That allowed us to continue doing that. We didn't account in scenario 1 for all of our revenue. We accounted for our monthly usage fees and our connections, but all of our miscellaneous revenue, such as late fees, interest payments, things like this, we didn't account for that because they're very hard to predict. And so we just said, let's be conservative and let's not even factor that revenue in. If we get that, that's just additional. Rate scenario 1, though, it yields the highest rates. Rate scenario 2, kind of the opposite of that. We leverage all of our borrowing capacity for projects. We finance as many projects as we can, and we account for all of our revenue. In the event of an economic downturn, it would scenario 2 is going to leave us, I won't say handcuffed, but it would be a lot more difficult on our operating budget. Scenario 2 had the lowest impact the smallest impact on our rates, though. Scenario 3, which is ultimately where our board landed, that they wanted to make the recommendation, they asked for scenario 3. They said, you've given us bookends on 1 and 2, give us a scenario that's kind of a middle of the road. And so that's what you'll see with scenario 3. All of the scenarios, they're based on our current rate structure of a minimum bill for 2,000 gallons, your first 2,000 gallons for water and sewer, and then we have a flat rate for water over that first 2,000 gallons purchased. So scenario 3, as I said, it includes our monthly revenues, our connection fees, and then it includes some of our miscellaneous revenues, but not all. As far as financing projects, scenario 3, we're going to fund some of our projects out of savings, and then we're also going to utilize our financing opportunities through bonds and lines of credit. So it's very much a middle of the road, a compromise between scenarios 1 and 2. This is what our board felt comfortable with, and they thought it was in the best interest of our customers.
What Chase's board really struggled with is, frankly, they've turned themselves inside out with these considerations. The scenario that they have recommended to you has a relatively small, immediate increase. Trust me, it's an increase, but it is not the giant increase. And then it scales up sharply over a 5-year period. The board felt strongly that for our bigger users, our commercial users, our industrial users, and even our families, this would give them time to anticipate an increase. If budgets are set for this year, the increase is there, but it's not as large as it was under the other scenarios. This gives businesses and folks a chance to prepare for this over a 1 or 2 year period before it really skyrockets. I think that was the feeling that the water board tried to accomplish with this scenario.
With scenario 3, this shows what happens with our water rates. Our current minimum bill, $8.54. This coming year for our FY20 budget, our minimum water bill will increase to $10.94. There will be an increase in each of the next 4 years after that. And after 2024, our minimum bill for water will be $14.38. Our variable rate, $4.80 per 1,000 gallons, which we bill on the percentage based on usage. Once you hit over 2,000 gallons, you're not automatically paying $4.80. That is a distinction we need to make. It's based on the percentage of usage of that 1,000 gallons. But our minimum, or our variable rate will increase from $4.80 to $6 in the first year, and then increase every year, ending in 2024 at $7.72. Sewer rates, it's very similar. We will see as our minimum bill, $7.82. That will increase in our first year to $10.06. Then there will be an increase every year till 2024, ending at our minimum bill being $13.13. And our variable sewer rate will be $5.58, increasing to $6.70 in fiscal year 20. Increase every year till we're in 2024, and the rate will be $8.23. This is what our board asked for. There's a lot of numbers on this page, but essentially for water and sanitary sewer, all 3 rate scenarios comparisons side by side. I'm not going to go through and read every number on here, but just know in doing that side-by-side comparison, this is where they looked at this and they selected scenario 3 for our water and sewer rate. Graphically, what does all this look like? Currently, our minimum water bill is, as I said, $8.54 here, this line in red. Scenario 1 is in green. What we saw was an initial increase next year from $8.54 to $13.33. That rate would stay there for 2 years. Then in year 3, it would increase to $17.71 for the minimum water bill, and then it would stay the same. So you'd essentially see a year 1 increase and a year 3 increase. Scenario 2, as I said, where we were maximizing our financing opportunities, resulted in a lower rate increase. So we increased from $8.54 to $11.13, and here in blue, that rate stays the same for the first 2 years. Year 3 increases to $13.93, and that's where it stays through 2024. Again, to repeat what the mayor said, the rate scenario 3, the board wanted to see what we could do, what is the lowest amount we can increase our rates in the first year. That was very important. Again, let our users anticipate this increase and be able to react and budget for it. While it wasn't as low as we were hoping, we see an increase for scenario 3 from $8.54 to $10.94. Then we have an increase in every year, smaller increase. We end up at the end of the planning period, 5-year period, at $14.38 on the minimum water bill. Minimum sewer, same chart. We have our current minimum bill, $782. Scenario 1 here in purple, we see the initial increase to $11.07. That increase stays for 2 years, then it jumps again to $11.88. Scenario 2 here, this line, same thing, but the increase occurs in year 4 and 5 instead of year 3. Again, our scenario 3, the lowest increase in the first year of the planning period to $10.06, then smaller incremental increases over the next 4 years past that, ending at $13.13. We feel like this chart is really what people can really look at and figure out how it affects them. And I think this is what your constituents will want to see. I think that this is what we will be showing our customers as they come in and ask questions at customer service. And that's, what is the average bill? I'm talking about minimums and variable rates. Well, what's our average combined water and sewer bill? Currently in this column, we show the current average. These are all the same, but currently our average residential bill for water and sewer is $33.59. Our current average commercial user, their bill is $163.28. And our current industrial user is $3,215.07. That's based on our customer data, our average. What we've done is we've showed for each of the scenarios, but again, we're recommending scenario 3. As you go through our 5-year planning process going down, you see that year 1, our average residential rate will jump from $33.59 to $42.14. Our average commercial, it will jump here to $200.51, and our average industrial user will jump from $3,215.07 to $3,941.14. And same as you move down there, what we anticipate, how we move forward over 5 years, what those averages will be. Just looking at, just for knowledge, the average residential rate is based on 3,900 gallons of usage per month. I've got the numbers on commercial, industrial as well, if you want those. Grab those out of my folder. But 3,900 gallons is what the average residential rate is based on.
This was context that we thought council needed to see, so that you could just get your arms around exactly what the increase was this year and what is projected over the entire 5-year term of these improvements without having to do a bunch of calculations, but just give you a graph that shows the best that we can what the impact is.
Critical needs analysis aside, our rates have been the same for 12 years. If you look at that 12-year period dating back to 2007 to present, I've just shown, Alan put this together to show just 3 of our operating costs and what they've done over that 7-year period. We have group insurance in orange. You can see how it's steadily increased, same as the city's experienced. Chemicals for our operation of our plants. Those, you can see those spiked, but overall trended upward over that 12-year period. And then finally, just our utility costs, what our electric bill is monthly. And you can see how that has increased over 12 years. So we have to factor that in, and on average, the cost for insurance, chemicals, and utility, we've seen a 69% increase over the last 12 years, yet our rates have remained the same.
Forgive me, because I'm new, but why is that we haven't had a rate increase in 12 years?
I think that's just the priority that our administrative board has had, was keeping rates low.
I mean, it's nice.
Nobody wants a rate increase. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here presenting on this. And I don't think our board wanted it or managed. That was just the priority.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've reached critical mass, though. It has to happen now. I think it was just a matter of management priority.
While this is a required response from us, what this scenario does, Tammy, it gets us on that path. This is a 5-year plan to reach a specific set of goals over those 5 years. And the commitment that Chase has made to us is we'll do this every 5 years or sooner. And we won't go a long period of time without planning information and without documentation and without discussion of what capital funding really looks like. That we begin this process and we never end this process in terms of evaluation and renewing this cycle without having a 12-year gap.
I have a question. How many residents do we have outside the city limits that have sewer and or water?
I don't know off the top of my head.
That's been, and
I can get that information to you, though.
I mentioned it to you once before about, this is one thing that's always concerning to me, or I thought maybe it should be looked at differently, that people that are outside of the city limits should pay more for water, sewer, simply for the fact that it is longer to come into the wastewater plant where it's being treated. And I've never understood why, because we're basing this on everybody that has water or sewer having the same rate. There's no difference in.
Correct.
Did your board ever think about that?
We've not discussed that, but I can take a stab at it. First of all, water side, I think, because the county government, the fiscal court, over the years, as I've understood the history, please correct me if I'm wrong, has invested in our company millions of dollars and to help us offer water service to those customers. I'm not sure, but I would guess if we accepted that investment with no expectation of return and then we asked for a higher rate on water, I don't know that the county would have liked that. That's my guess, but I don't know that to be correct. Sanitary sewer
Now
is...
that we're kind of looking, now, sewer, Mallard Point pays more, Harbor Village pays more.
Yes, ma'am.
So they're based on this scenario that they pay more.
Correct, till that agreement expires.
Okay.
They don't pay more indefinitely.
Okay.
Is that correct? There is a term life on those agreements.
So that kind of, and that, to me, that makes sense, that they do pay more. And so it kind of makes sense to me that where we're going so far out south, that they should be paying more outside of the city limits.
They are not paying more in rate, but for all of the infrastructure to extend outside of the service area and the city limits, they are paying 100% of those costs.
Okay.
Moving forward, they don't pay a higher rate, but again, to extend from our current service area to the park and all the infrastructure in the park, that is 100% their cost. They reimburse us for it.
Will they pay enough over the years to take care of that line, that it won't come back out of the city residents to help take care of that line as years pass?
As part of the loan package, one of the last things they asked me to look at was potential revenue and expense offsets to make sure that that investment would continue to pay for itself, and I do believe it will. I believe the revenue is there, and factoring out the expenses, I do believe that we'll see a profit for that part of that project, for them investing there. But again, we're not paying for we're paying for our infrastructure that is in our service area to serve our service area. They're going to pay for the extension and a privilege fee to tie on.
Yeah, they're actually going to have two bills. They'll have the water, the operations bill and a debt service bill.
Yes.
Until they pay off all the debt that we incurred for them.
As far as going back to the sanitary sewer in the county, the other parts, I really don't have an answer for you there. I'm sorry, I don't. As far as assessing a higher rate there, we didn't look at it. The board didn't ask for it.
I think it's because we've never done it, but we're doing something, this would have been a great time to take a look at that.
Sure.
Just because we're doing something that we haven't done for 12 years, we've not looked at, and there's so much growth going on in the county as well as the city. Now would have been a great time to have looked at it.
We just didn't get to that part. So the truth of it.
Just in support of Karen's idea for evaluation, I've heard the case made before, effectively, that it costs more to pump things further.
Sure.
It's just wear and tear on pumps. There's depreciation costs, there's operating costs. You can make a case for it. I do agree that the fact that the county's given us $10 million with no expectation on return might make me hesitant to do that. But
that would be the only reason.
But the concept is valid.
I will say, Alan reminded me at the beginning of this, our administrative board, and it's not a good answer to your question, but they like our current rate structure. It's easily understood, it's defendable, it's fair. They asked us not to tinker with or change, even investigate an alternative rate structure. They wanted that they wanted that from the beginning, keep that the same.
I understand. I understand it because it is easier to do it this way than just like breaking it down. And the fair part, I don't necessarily agree with them on that, but won't split hairs on it, but I don't necessarily agree on that. But yeah, easier, absolutely would be to keep up with and maintain and billing and all that too.
I think that's you make a good point there, and it's something we've got to look at next time around. I wish we could have done it this time, but we didn't get there.
Do you feel like, I mean, this is exhaustive, what you've done, and I appreciate it, and you actually made it understandable to a layperson, and I appreciate that. Do you feel confident that nothing is going to come up that surprises us, that makes us have to do something else in the next 5 years?
Something will come up.
In 5 years. This is a 5 years set, though.
This is 5 years as
After
best
5
we
years,
can.
he just said we'll have to go through this rate
Right.
structure again.
But I mean,
Within the 5 years,
within the 5
can
years is
something
what I'm
come up?
worried about.
Absolutely.
Things
This is
could
our
come.
best time, our best effort right now to predict what will happen.
You never know.
You never know.
Tammy, it's something that I've pointed out to the Finance Committee and others. Chase has mentioned some funding for studies of alternative sources of water. But real action on alternative sources of water is one of those projects that got pushed out past 5 years. That's a reality. Is that ideally what I'd like to see? No. We've got to do the art of the possible and what we can afford and what we can do. And we're taking our best effort to figure out what must be done now. And without breaking the bank, getting that financed, knowing that we're putting some things off just a little bit. Even with this great of this large of a package, we are still pushing some things off that could come up later. It's a good question because it absolutely could happen.
I'll just, and what you started off with, that it was understandable to a layperson, I give that credit to our consultant, GRW, for helping me understand it as
I
well.
appreciate it.
Helping GRW and our staff. What I'd like you to look at here, this is just comparing what our proposed rate will be against other rates in the Bluegrass Ad District. And Bluegrass Ad is the organization that does go out and seek this information and publish it annually. We had to compare ours to how they compile and publish the data. They publish it in 2,000 gallon increments. So they publish what water and sewer combined rates are for 2,000 gallons, 4,000 gallons, and 6,000 gallons. That's how we show the comparison. So for 2,000 gallons, you'll see, and let me give another caveat here. Everything in blue, their last publishing was of 2018 data. So that's data 2 years ago, or a year ago, but what you see in red is forecasted for our 2020 data. So it's 2 years difference. We're showing what ours will be this coming year into next year. These are rates that are 2 years behind that. So likely ours will shift as all these other cities, as if they see increases, they're going to be shifting to the right, and ours would be going lower. So scenario 3, as you can see, for 2,000 gallons combined water and sewer rate, we are still right at the bottom next to Paris for that combined rate. Because we have that flat rate for usage over 2,000 gallons, you can see that as we increase our water comparison, our 4,000 gallons, you see that we're jumping up here. We're still fourth from the bottom, but we are moving up that graph a little bit in comparison to the other utilities. And in 6,000 gallons, you're still going to see that we're in the bottom third. I think that if you factor in that some of these cities have had increases since 2018, we might not even be this high as far as where we stand in comparison to the other utilities.
I have a question for you, and you may not be able to answer this. Frankfurt, why is Frankfurt so high? I'm surprised that they're, and since we buy water from Frankfurt, why are they?
This is probably sewer rates for City of Frankfurt. I don't know if this includes Frankfurt
like
Plant
water
Board.
Rates, so like they were higher than the others were too. Is there a reason for that?
Probably what I can guarantee you, it's based on who has done the latest major capital project. I can tell you that Versailles is they're undergoing a wastewater treatment plant expansion. Similar, their rates are probably about to jump, and they'll be moving to the right on that chart. Winchester went through their consent decree a number of years ago. It was actually when I was working in consulting and got to help with that work. That's why they're at the top. They underwent for their consent decree a major remedial measures program. That's why their rates are reflected there at the top of the list. And just whoever has the latest major capital investment, they're going to move. They're going to move to the top of that list.
Yeah, it's surprising that Lexington wasn't at the tip top of the list. I thought they would be at the tip top, but
They'll be moving that way. Their rates they have them planned over a number of years to pay for their $600 million in improvements to their sanitary sewer.
Chase, does this apply to commercial or industrial users as well as the residential, this graph, or are there different graphs for those?
How they put these numbers together, I don't know, but they are the organization that really does the comparisons, and I'm sure that they have to do a lot of normalizing to get all of the rates for the different utilities based on their different structures. They have to get them to match up some way.
So even after, assuming that this passes, we would still be in the lower quarter to third of everybody on this?
Yes, sir.
For what we can project now, David.
Okay.
We know that later in our 5-year cycle, ours is going to accelerate, which might move us over on the list. But then during that same time frame, those cities may have rate increases as well. That variable is something we simply can't predict today. Chase will just have to update this for us.
Sure.
every
And this
year,
is always, as soon as it's updated, we have this posted on our website and in our office.
But this would be after year one, is that what you're
This
saying?
is after year one, this is year one rates.
Which would be essentially a 28% increase.
Yes, sir.
For the residential type user.
Yes, sir. Moving into our FY20 budget that we'll be seeking your consideration on, it is based on scenario number 3. We've developed 3 budgets for this year instead of just one. We've developed one
You only
for
get one, though.
each one. That's correct. We've developed one because we didn't know where the board and the council will land. We went ahead and developed a budget for each one of the scenarios. So we're presenting on our budget that's based on scenario 3. We will have an increased revenue of almost $1.4 million, 11%. Our expenses will increase over $500,000, 4% from our 2018 budget. Key components of our FY20 budget, we're going to fund our departmental operating requests totaling $1.15 million. We will continue our projects that are ongoing at wastewater treatment plant number 2. However, those are reimbursed from Toyota. We will pursue our South Sewer Extension project, again, our portion of that. We have money budgeted for a replacement of 5 vehicles from our vehicle replacement fund, and we will attempt to continue work totaling $3.9 million on our capital projects, the lion's share of that being the design of the wastewater treatment plant number 1 upgrade and expansion. I've already gone through our water rates, but this just shows it again. Minimum water rate will be $10.94 for the first 2,000 gallons, and it will be, our variable rate will be $6 for each 1,000 gallons after that. As the rate ordinance is written, it is actually, the variable rate is $0.006 per gallon, just to make that distinction. That's how the ordinance is written. So our sewer rate, it will increase to $10.06 for the first 2,000 gallons, and then it will be $0.0067 per gallon. Water and sewer connections, we've taken a more conservative approach this year because we're so far behind from last year. We have those budgeted at 125 and 175 respectively, and we chose to match what the city was doing for employee wage increases, 1.9% for all employees based on the consumer price index. We plan to add 3 new personnel in our engineering department. A question that came to me is, Chase, how are you going to try to complete 10 projects a year? We're going to need help. Currently, we have our engineering supervisor, Daryl Mulder, then we have 1 construction inspector, we have 1 GIS coordinator, and 2 line locators. We have to have more internal staff to help manage these efforts, so we would like to add another engineer to help with project management. We would like to add another inspector, probably our greatest need. Our 1 inspector juggles over 20 projects per day between new development projects and our internal projects. He is begging me for help. We've got to get him that help. Then we would like to add an engineering technician that can just help with plan review, can help with project management, anything she is going to be the catch-all. We just desperately have been understaffed there and doing the best we can to hang on, but it's unsustainable at the rate that we get in new development plans. We add in this aggressive capital program, we're going to need help. Group health insurance, we saw that increase 2.26% this year. Dental insurance, 5% increase. Our employees are going to cover the cost of that increase this year. The utility is not paying that increase. We started that last year in order to get our benefits package to be closer to the city's benefits package. So currently, our employees pay 5.5% of their insurance costs.
Chase, before you go to the next slide, can I ask you a question? I don't want to interrupt your thought here, though, if you're...
It's the last slide, I believe, so.
Okay. Well, today, Connie and I, from the Finance Committee's perspective, had the benefit to hear some of this. And one of the things that you had mentioned to us was that with the number of projects that you're going to be taking on over the next 5 years, which, 50 or 51 new projects, that's essentially, almost one a month for the next 5 years. You're going to need the additional manpower, staffing, from an engineering perspective or otherwise, to help accommodate that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just from a project management standpoint.
Okay. And then can you go back to one slide before where it talked about the increase and the cost of water after 2,000 gallons? Is the cost of water, is it that .006? Is
Per
that
gallon.
the actual
Per
cost
gallon.
of water delivered?
Yes, sir.
Per gallon. And the thing that I said today is, it's hard to believe that, to me anyway, when I think about a gallon of water coming to your house, being delivered, clean, sanitary, and usable for half a cent, considering how much we pay for a bottle of water when we go to the store, we go to a ball game, whatever the case may be, that seems like a pretty good deal. Do I have a second on that?
Amen, brother. How about that?
Amen.
Yes.
Amen, brother.
I thought it was pretty intriguing.
Chase, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Follow-up question to one of the first questions
Yeah.
David just mentioned. Of the 51 total projects, and if my math is correct, it's somewhere in the vicinity between 77 and 78 million dollars total.
Yes, sir.
This proposed rate increase scenario 3, if this were to pass, that pays for any additional operational costs plus all of those projects in full.
Yes, sir. It pays for them in full, depending on how they're funded or the debt service going forward on those projects if they're financed.
But all 51 projects, though, would be anticipated to be completed within 5 years.
Yes, some of the 5-year projects, the year 5 projects will at least be started.
Okay.
And so they'll move into the next time you do a 5-year plan. Or next year when you do the plan, 5 years out, it'll move into that.
And I want to go ahead and ask this question, but I know I've talked to at least one other council member about this. And I don't know if you're close to wrapping up, or if you want me to wait. I can hold this question if you're,
I'm
want to interrupt your train.
pretty much to the end. I was just going to say, again, health insurance, we touched on that, and yeah, I'm done.
You know, it's an increase. It is, and that's painful. But again, it's been 12 years, and we can't go back and change the past. We can't do it. Should we have been doing this every year for the past 12 years? A small increase. We can talk about that until we're blue in the face, and we can't change it. And so I guess my question is if we do nothing at all, if we decide as a body that we're not going to do an increase, we're no way possible, what happens?
Immediate standpoint, I'll 3 things. First of all, we will pay GRW for the work they've done on the wastewater treatment plant, and we will stop work on that because we don't have the money to fund it. That's wastewater 1. Currently, that's right at 90% of its capacity, so that plant is essentially closed for any new business. New connections that would discharge to wastewater 1 would be denied. Current flows during wet weather, we already have wastewater bypasses at that plant. So we cannot add flow. Right now, we're working with Division of Water to stay out of a new connection ban moratorium until that plant is complete, the expansion. But if we don't do anything today or within the next 2 weeks, that project gets put on hold. In addition, South Sewer Extension won't be funded. And I would say just that's from a project perspective. I would say overall, the thing that I would look at The mayor touched on, we talked about at the finance committee today, is if I am in work for a regulatory agency, Division of Water or US EPA, and I'm in their enforcement group, and I see our rates published by Bluegrass Ad, and I see that we haven't increased rates in 12 years, and I see how much lower we are than the next highest being Paris currently, I look at that and say Georgetown's not maintaining their system, and we need to go to Georgetown and take a closer look. And that's where I don't think we would be able to keep ourselves out of a regulatory compliance action. That's what I will offer as immediate impact if we do nothing.
And one of the things that I've talked to a couple of the employees, actually a few of the employees with the water company, and they had high praise for Chase because of the way that he had done this study and included not only the department heads, but going down to each individual employee and say, okay, what do you think? So they were very complimentary and spoke very highly of Chase through this entire process. So, you know, there was a couple that were not happy about raises in the insurance, but as I explained to them, I said, you know, there was a few years back when we didn't get a raise, the insurance changed, the insurance rates went up, and there was some of the members of the police department that took a $5,000 to $7,000 hit with deductibles and out-of-pocket payments. So, you know, it's up and down years. So, you know, and I told them, I said, you know, this may just be a one-year thing. You know, things may change next year. So they spoke highly of the whole entire process. So it was good from inside, and this was unsolicited from them. They reached out and contacted me about it.
I got 2 phone calls, the same thing, so.
I do too.
I think the staff has been wanting a plan. It was one of the first things that they came to me with. So we don't like operating year to year. Give us a long-term plan. Give us some goals and show us what we're going to do. And I feel like we've given our best effort.
It's better for them to see the path that you're going down than where you've been and what's down the corner. You know, it's good to see that. So.
And then I'll also give praise to our administrative board. Very, very difficult decision to essentially cut what I think our employees have come to accustomed to anticipating for annual raises, essentially cutting those in half. And I don't even think that's a result of us asking for this rate increase this year. That's just our financial reality of our current budget and where we are with revenue. That was not a popular idea, and they know, we know that the staff isn't happy with it, but we felt like it was the responsible action on the part of the board for the employees. And I think the staff is, while very disappointed and upset at first, I think they've responded well, and I'm proud that by the end of the week, really most of the staff by the next morning were back to work with a good attitude and ready to do good things.
Have
So-
you, in this 5-year plan, have you put in there the possibility of, well, it's not a possibility, it's going to happen, insurance going up, rates going up, and
Those are all assumptions that we factored in. Alan, do you know the assumptions off the top of your head for any of these? I don't. I'll put Alan on the spot.
10% on utilities, 12% on healthcare.
Per year.
We asked the board,
Part of it's here.
Chase's team to help the council understand the process, the need, and how it can be financed.
They couldn't have brought it no clearer.
And I think they've delivered.
Very good.
Rate increases are not popular, and I know it's a heavy lift for the council. But I do appreciate the fact that we've been given a business case that seems to justify it. We won't ask you to vote tonight, but if we're okay, we'll go ahead with first reading of the ordinance.
Good.
An ordinance amending Georgetown Code of Ordinances, Chapter 19, Article 3 regarding sewer and water rates. Sponsors, council members Mark Showalter and Connie Tackett. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Georgetown, Kentucky, Section 1, Chapter 19, Article 3, Section 19-134 of the Code of Ordinances is amended as follows. Section 19-134, Schedule of Sewer Rates. The following schedule of sewer rates shall apply to each and all users of the wastewater collection and treatment system. Sewer rate schedule. Rates effective August 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $10.06 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.0067 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2021. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons. Monthly charge, $11.02, minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00718 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022. Water usage per month, first 2,000 gallons, $11.74, minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00754 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023. Water usage per month, first 2,000 gallons, $12.42 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00788 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2023. Water usage per month, first 2,000 gallons, $13.13 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00823 per 1 gallon. All charges shall be rounded to the nearest 1 cent. Rate changes occurring in the middle of a billing cycle shall be effective at the beginning of the next billing cycle. For residential, commercial, and industrial users, monthly sewer user charge will be based on actual water usage. If a residential, commercial, industrial user has a consumptive use of water or in some other manner uses water which is not discharged into the wastewater collection system, the sewer user charge for that user may be based on readings from wastewater meters or separate water meters, installed and maintained at the user's expense and approved by GMWSS. Sewer connection fee shall be $1,500 per residential unit. Commercial and industrial sewer connection fees shall be based on the number of equivalent residential units, ERUs, based upon 4,500 gallons per month average usage per residential unit. The sewer connection fee per ERU shall be $1,500. Section 2. Chapter 19, Article 3, Section 19-206 of the Code of Ordinances is amended as follows. Section 19-206, Determination of Rates. The rates for the use of water shall be fixed from time to time by the GMWSS Board of Commissioners, subject to the approval of the Council, and the Board of Commissioners shall provide rules for the management and operation of the water and sanitary sewer system and the collection of all bills and water and sanitary sewer charges. The monthly rates and charges for water service to each customer shall be as set forth in the following schedule. Rates effective August 1, 2019 through June 30, 2020. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $10.94 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.06 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2021. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $11.77 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00641 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2021, June 30, 2022. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $12.63 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00685 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2022, June 30, 2023. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $13.49 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00728 per 1 gallon. Rates effective July 1, 2023. Water usage per month. First 2,000 gallons, $14.38 minimum monthly bill. All over 2,000 gallons, $0.00772 per 1 gallon. All charges shall be rounded to the nearest 1 cent. Rate changes occurring in the middle of a billing cycle shall be effective at the beginning of the next billing cycle. Water connection fee shall be as follows, except when the cost of making a connection exceeds the connection fee. The customer shall be billed for the additional cost. 3/4 inch by 5/8 inch, $1,500. 1 inch, $2,100. 2 inch, $4,350. 3 inch, $16,500. 4 inch, $21,000. Section 3. If any section, subsection, paragraph, sentence, clause, phrase, or a portion of this ordinance is declared illegal or unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such declaration shall not affect the remaining portions hereof. Section 4. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon passage and publication. Publicly introduced and read for the first time June 24th, 2019.
Aren't you glad that was a summary?
That was a mouthful.
That will constitute first reading of the rate ordinance. Again, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of concepts. Chase is available. His consulting engineers are available. If you really need help, I'll help confuse you. Chase, next step, you've presented the information on your budget. Are we just going to wait until the rate increase passes and then we'll take it up? Anything else for us, Chase?
That's it.
It's a good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Real good.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Under city engineer, we're pleased that we've got a resolution approving an application for a build grant. This is essentially the exact same grant that we applied for 1 year ago this month to improve Old Oxford Pike all the way to Newtown Pike, 4.1 miles, I believe. And the construction of 8/10 of a mile extension of Lexus Way from Cherry Blossom to Old Oxford. And then those are the two primary. We still have some planning dollars for Connector Road in there. As the resolution indicates, the total cost of the project is $11,725,000. It's increased by just a couple of percentage points since we submitted it. They've updated the estimates. We still are applying with a 25% match. The fiscal court has it on their agenda for their next regularly scheduled meeting to, by resolution, approve their splitting of the local match with us. So it's a true joint city-county project. Hope to have an answer on this sometime in December. We've been led to believe that a far greater percentage of the build grants are for more rural communities this year. So our odds are a little better. And our team has really worked well with the folks who judged the applications, giving us feedback on how we could improve ours.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Boy, those fans are loud, aren't they?
They're really loud.
We'll get some rheostats, so, and some new ones, so they can spin, but not quite at, you know.
Helicopter speed.
I can hear again. The next items, each year we bid a unit price for blacktop, for stone, for concrete curb work, even permanent pavement or pavement markings contract. That way Eddie has the flexibility with council approval to go assign those without having to bid them all separately. In item B, the asphalt and stone material supply contract is Hamilton and Hinkle. That's true for the asphalt construction contract as well, and the pavement markings contract. The concrete construction contract is with a company, it's a different subcontractor. Hamilton and Hinkle subbed out that concrete work anyway. If we have a direct contract with them, we're not paying a markup on what somebody else hires a sub for us to do.
Mayor, would you like a motion on all four of them together?
I think we can. Is that all right with you, Devin?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept all of those municipal orders. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Way to knock that out, Karen.
Thank you. Item 10 on your agenda, and I promised Stacy I could handle this all by myself tonight,
Yeah.
rather than make her sit through this long council meeting. This is second reading of our budget amendment ordinance. This is simply where we're cleaning up at the end of the year. Stacy's already explained that, and this is second reading.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019. Summary. General fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $2,122,650. License and permit revenues is decreased by $2,175,000. Charges for services are increased by $20,000. Fines or forfeitures are increased by $55,000. Intergovernmental revenue is increased by $31,500. Other revenue is increased by $56,400. General government expenses are increased by $13,500. Building inspection expenses are increased by $1,000. Police expenses are increased by $43,500. Fire expenses are increased by $10,000. Code expenses are increased by $20,000. Public works expenses are increased by $8,300. Utility expenses are increased by $37,500. Interlocal expenses are increased by $25,000. Transfers out are decreased by $48,250. Grant funds. Other revenues are increased by $17,891.75. Police department expenses are increased by $17,891.75. Environmental services fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $55,305. Sanitation expenditures are increased by $55,305. Recycling operating expenditures are increased by $8,000. Recycling capital expenditures are decreased by $8,000. Cemetery operating fund. Intergovernmental revenues are decreased by $48,250. Transfers in are decreased by $48,250. Cemetery operating expenses are increased by $11,000. Capital expenses are decreased by $107,500. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time June 10, 2019. Publicly read for the second time June 24, 2019.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Thank you. If there are no questions, we'll call the roll.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. The other piece of business that Stacy included in your packet is a municipal order approving some fund balance assignments. We do this each year. The list is a little longer this year. The most important part of the whole document, Stacy wanted me to, is the second page of her memorandum, the last sentence. Please note that the assignment of fund balance at 6/30/19 does not negatively impact the overall anticipated ending fund balance for fiscal year 1920. It simply shifts the timing of these expenses from one year to the other. Just an acknowledgement by the council that we're going to shift these with your awareness.
We need a vote on that?
Motion. Thank you. Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Thank you. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Under the fire department, let's see, Chief, we are approving your physicals again.
Extending the contract with Dr. Lyon, the prices as far as would stay as they were as last year.
Okay.
I make a motion.
Motion, thank you.
Second.
Second. If no questions of the chief, he's such a short term.
It'd be easy.
Is this your last council meeting?
No.
No, okay.
There's a few more.
Real thrilled, weren't you? No, I got a few more.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.
That gets us all the way down to council comments. Tammy, could we start on your end?
I'm good.
Okay. Mark?
Yes. Devin and I talked last week. There's a constituent that lives in a subdivision here within the city limits that had reached out to several of us, possibly even all of us, in regards to some drone activity that was possibly either harassment, borderline
That's the one you were
harassment.
talking to Captain about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the concern that I heard was maybe borderline harassment /
Some privacy.
infringing on privacy. And I know we had talked about it last week, and I didn't know if there's
And I'm-
anything we can do at this point. or-
Researching and actually been emailing back and forth with, I don't know her exact title with KLC, but I recalled a session at the conference a couple years ago where they talked about local regulations of drones, even private citizen use. So I've been emailing with her and hopefully can have some kind of a recommendation because I think it's obviously an issue. I know she contacted all of you.
Yes.
And, you know, it sounds like a bad actor, but, you know, if you don't plan for those scenarios, it's kind of, so I'm working on that to answer you. Absolutely.
It's clear that that can be a huge invasion of privacy.
Yes.
Particularly now they can be fitted with cameras and videos.
You can fly right up to a window if the windows.
I think the concern she had a 15-year-old daughter out there sunbathing next to the pool, drone, you know.
Went up to her windows too.
Yeah. So, something we need to look at and see what we can do.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was mentioned at the ending of our police committee
Yeah, it
meeting
was, yeah.
tonight. So,
We-
and there is a pretty high awareness of it.
But maybe she's watching, know that every one of us has brought it up, and we'll see what we can do about it.
Anything else, Mark? Karen?
I might need to ask the captain a question. She said something about her husband wanted to shoot it, and I said, "Oh, I don't think you can do that." But I said, "Do a paint gun and shoot it with a paint gun, cover up the." Is that legal or not? I thought you could. Okay,
You can
that's what my
start-
suggestion to her. She can
Water hose.
Water
get
hose.
a paint gun and
Yeah.
and that would damage it and maybe cover up the camera.
Boy, and you know,
Shoot it.
You know, when I put on the little needle nozzle, my pressure washer will get some real range.
I told her not to hesitate to use those options, but don't shoot it with a
There you
gun.
go.
So.
That's smart right there.
Yeah, and then I had to chase. I had a lady that called several times, and she was a little frustrated with what was going on with the water company and something she couldn't get through. And so I told her to call you directly, and she got through, and she called me back to thank me for getting her through, and that you talked to her. I don't think things are necessarily resolved, but she was happy that she got through to you and that you talked to her. So thank you for doing that. Okay, that's it.
Good. Connie?
Another thing, thanks.
Couple things, Mary, you mentioned that there's gonna be an event down at Royal Spring. And I guess it was last week, somebody called me and they said that there was a couch down there next to the cabin. I guess maybe somebody's been sleeping down there in the couch. I went by this weekend and there was a baby crib down there up against the cabin. So then I saw somebody's shoes sitting on some rocks. So I don't know what we can do, but
Well, that was a big part of our police
That
committee.
was a big part of our meeting.
was it?
Yeah, big part.
People using the parking ways that we don't intend.
Yeah. Well, we've got the porta pots down there, and I don't know,
All food and stuff in there.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if that's I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but I'm just,
You have to question the porta potties and their condition. They're rarely attractive. Tourism is working real hard on trying to address the availability of bathrooms downtown,
yeah,
particularly for tour buses,
yeah.
where Laura's gotten so much traction with
Yeah.
tour buses. And there aren't that many businesses along Main Street that can accommodate that. If City Hall and the courthouse are open, if it's a weekday, these are public facilities, but on weekends, it's a lot harder. Lori is making some progress, and there's some things that we'll talk about.
Okay, all right. Second item was, and we've talked about this, and I don't mean to kind of like harp on things, but I don't know, I just want to bring it up again. And I think Eddie told me maybe the state had a program where they could maybe spray some of the honeysuckle that's growing up along the bypass. It's amazing to me right now, and Devin, you and I kind of saw some of this not too long ago, but in parts of where Kmart was, half of that center is blocked from the bypass. You can't even see it because of all the undergrowth. Same thing's happening in front of Walmart, just in front of their area, because O'Charlie's will mow. They do a pretty good job of mowing in front of their property. It's not necessarily their responsibility, but they're like, hey, we want our property to look presentable, so we're going to mow it. Chick-fil-A does an excellent job of that.
Well,
And-
when we did when I was with the bank on Connector Road,
Yeah.
we tried to get all the businesses to go together and
Yeah.
let us mow the state right away.
Yeah.
So our property would look better.
Yeah. Mayor, I'm for those kinds of things. I hope we can put something together. I see in Lexington things happening, along some of the on-ramps and off-ramps that.
The state's not gonna do it.
And it's not the state. And our bypass in places it's horrible. It really is. And what's happening is as you drive along the bypass, we can't see some of the farmland, where there is farmland because of some of this brush. So I feel like we need to somehow be a little bit more aggressive in trying to get it taken care of. I don't have the answer for it. I'm not, I'm bringing it up. And I don't mind to get involved and be involved and do whatever I need to do to try to help facilitate this, because it's becoming an eyesore to the community.
And some areas just getting more and more overgrown each season. I tell you who you're kind of channeling right now is Bobby Rankin.
Really?
Listen, that bothered Bobby Rankin so much.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't have good lines of sight.
Yeah.
And you couldn't see the beauty of Scott County.
Yeah.
And before Bobby died, he came down to City Hall a couple of times and loaded me up in his truck and took me to where he could show me, and it was on our interstate.
Yeah.
It was in our city. It was
Yeah.
on the bypass.
Yeah.
It was Bynes and Kudzu and him, he's a farmer, saying you don't have to have that. You
Yeah.
can do, but yeah.
Yeah. The other place, I know I mentioned this once before, and whenever I travel, I'm always trying to pay attention to what other communities look like. I can't help it. I want to see, compare, and then maybe bring back some ideas to our community. And one of the things that I saw soccer teams right off the they were on private property next to the interstate, and I thought, man, that really looks good in that community. Well, we have soccer fields right next to the interstate between us and the horse park, but right now, this time of year, you can't even see them because of all the honeysuckle. And in my opinion, I would be good with us talking to the county, talking to Parks and Recreation, talking to tourism, talking to whomever, and say, hey, let's get this taken care of. Let's talking to the jail.
They weed eat up and down those.
Well, let's
bypasses.
cut this stuff out. Let's clean it up so people can see. Hey, Georgetown's look at the soccer fields over here. Whatever that may be. So I don't know, Mayor. I'm putting it in your court. I'll help. I'll do whatever I can do.
You gonna use that weed eater out there?
Well, I can't do that right now, unfortunately.
I know.
would, but I'm a bit
I will for you.
handcuffed. But anyway,
On a
let's-
smaller scale, David, we're trying to do some cleanup at UCO Inn where we're realizing that from the pavilion and the deck, you should be able to see the creek.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
part of the natural beauty,
Yeah.
so we're looking at, we've already worked on giving you line of sight from the road. It used to be so grown up you couldn't see Cardone from
Yeah.
the road. Same concept.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not going to harp on it, obviously, Mayor, but I think it's more important than we realize. I really do. I think it's important to those businesses, because let's think about it. If those businesses aren't being seen, they're probably not going to be utilized as much. If the horse farm, it goes on and on. I think it's a cycle. And I've said before that the interstate it's a pipeline of money. It's a pipeline of a lot of things, but it's a pipeline of money traveling up and down that interstate. And I think we need to be trying to pull as many people off of it to invest in our community as we can. And I'm passionate about it.
Right.
Sound like it.
Anyway, next.
Anything else?
No.
Marvin?
Scott County Fair starts tomorrow night. Be there.
That's right. Everybody be there. Is the rain gonna cooperate with you?
It's supposed to be pretty till Friday afternoon, or Saturday afternoon, so we got 4 beautiful days, they said. I don't know what Saturday's gonna be, but
Good. Well, you're not used to 4 pretty days, so.
not used to 1 anymore.
That's true. Thank you, Marvin. Paul?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We will stand adjourned. The one over under. Andrew nailed it.
Thinking
Did he?
about-
Oh, he said 2.5.
Tracy.
Tracy.
Well, I don't know, that clock says it's midnight.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Tom, that clock says it's midnight.